We're going to go ahead and get started with this special meeting of the Reimagining Public Safety Community Task Force. It's Thursday, December 3rd at 5:32. I'm going to go ahead and just do a quick roll call, just so we can kind of gauge who's all here. Eddie Chacon.
Present.
Luis Chacon.
Present.
Don Gosney.
I'm here.
DeWanda Joseph. Randy Joseph. Kristen Killian Lobos.
Here.
James Lee.
I'm here.
Armand Lee.
Here.
Shirley Leslie.
Here.
Laura Mangles.
Here.
Marcus Njisang.
And just saying here.
Njisang. I'm gonna get it.
Right.
Tanya Polito. Joey Schlemmer.
Evening.
Hey, Deborah Small. Andres Soto. Nakari Sion. Ben Thoreau. I don't think I'm saying his last name right, but David Tucker.
Yeah, I'm here.
Tamisha Walker. I know
Present.
okay. Linda Whitmore.
Present.
And BK Williams. So thank you. I know this was a alternative day and a special meeting. So thank you all to those who have come. And I want to go over the agenda really briefly. We don't have it listed. That was my fault. I'm doing this from home today, so I'm a little bit, I'm not technically up to par this evening. So thank you for your patience, but basically we only have 3 items. And I want to combine the first 2 items for just the sake of clarity and ease in presenting all the information. And then that way, if there's public comments about all of that together, and then we will go on to the second item, which is actually item number 3 on the agenda. So if there is any opposition to that, if you can let me know. Otherwise, that sounds like a good idea. Okay, meeting procedures are as normal. We will have public comment. I do have a written public comment today. And to comment by video conference, if you're on a video conference, you select the raise your hand screen when we announce that it's time for public comment. And there will be 1 minute for people to be allowed to sign up for that. And each speaker will have, there will be 2 minutes for people to sign up. There'll be a 2-minute time. During that time, we will get started with the speakers, and each speaker will have 1 minute. And that will be the same procedure for the individual comments following any discussion or action items. And then if you are on your telephone, to raise your hand, you need to press *9. So with that, are there any public comments? We'll open it up now for 2 minutes. We'll give people 2 minutes to raise their hand. And if we have any public comments, we'll get that started. And I appreciate when people do come later than the roll call. We do appreciate you putting your information in the chat. But besides that, we do, again, ask that people try to refrain from using the chat as much as possible during the meeting. And then Stephanie, if you could just make sure you let us know, or Lupe, when the 2 minutes are up.
Yeah, I have the timer going.
Okay.
There is 1 minute left to raise your hand for public comment. Thirty seconds left.
Okay, well, with that, I am going to read the public comments that we have written. They are from Cordell Hindler. He writes, I am so happy that the task force has been formed to handle the issues with the police department, and I would be interested in hearing more about the task force. Thank you. So that concludes our public comment section, and we will go into reviewing and discussing the meeting structure and the schedule for the remainder of the period that this group will be convening, and then also the presentations and the schedule for the presentations that are that will be within the meetings. And with that, Lupe, will you share your screen? Thank you. So based on all of the comments, questions, concerns, feedback from all of the meetings that we've already had, in addition to emails that I've gotten, in addition to the responses to the questionnaire that we sent to every member, we have put together and tried to synthesize all of this information into a template or framework for the remaining months to come and for the remaining meetings. This way, we're just trying to provide some guidance around all of the work that you guys are tasked with doing. So here you'll see there's different presentation topics, and we've listed them in the order that seemed, we've put a couple together that will probably be able to be had in the time that we have allotted for each meeting. And then there's some others that we know that will take much longer time, so then we've given them their own meeting. So next week we have the CPRC is confirmed that they will be here to present. And then we've also confirmed that the ONS will come to present as well. And this is just, so then after that, we're asking our PD to come back and provide us some updates around all of the different programs and different changes that they're already making. And so that I know that there were a few mentioned in our last meeting, and we want to just make sure that we're capturing all of that from them, and then that way giving more opportunity for further question and answers up front. And then we'll hear from lots of folks. These are all of the presenters that we will be contacting and asking them to come and give us some information about how things are done in the mental and behavioral health arena. And then after that will be homelessness. And that'll be around the time that City Council we'll have the new members in City Council, asking them to come. And then there will be a presentation on the school resource officers, and then the RPD budget. And then we'll ask some folks from our finance department to also come and present with them at that time. And I think Ben might be in as a panelist. Lupe, if you can, I mean, excuse me, as an attendee, if you can let him in as a panelist, thank you. And then we have in discussion in planning for the community listening sessions and the community roundtable or like topic focused meetings and workshops that we'll be having. We will be, an idea came up for us to actually focus them and make them topic focused and more of a roundtable so that we can invite community-based organizations that people have asked to hear from, and then have a really robust discussion with the community and plan those for to be in alignment with the various topic and focus group areas that the subgroups will be working in. And so here you can see that we will have 4 different sessions, and there's various community-based organizations and individuals and organizations that people have mentioned or asked about having them come and speak. And then we would plan to invite them to these community working sessions. So that's just kind of an overview of like all the information and all of the different presentations, all of the different areas that we've gotten feedback around. So what we've done is kind of try to put this all together in a way to kind of show you and visualize. And all of this is just draft material that we've come up with as a template. And so tonight's meeting is for us to get feedback from you around if this is the way you want to proceed, and then we can make this more like actually put these dates into practice, and making sure that once we're confirming and contacting people that we are giving them the proper dates that we want them to come, and give them some framework around what we want them to talk about. So if you can go to the next slide. So for December, with the holidays and everything, and because we know that we've been having lots of meetings and we will be having tons more coming this year, we're having this special meeting tonight, and then we'll have the regular scheduled monthly meeting next week on the 9th. And like we said, CPRC is already confirmed to come, as well as ONS to come and do a presentation. And then for January, next slide. We have, the consensus from the group was to have 2 monthly meetings per month, the community discussion, community workshops, community listening sessions, and then also you would be getting divided into sub-working groups. So this is a discussion to be had around what days you would like to possibly have the community roundtables. And it's up for discussion whether to have them on like the 3rd Thursday or possibly on a Saturday. And then if to be determined if we're ready to send either a written report or a actual presentation to the council, then we could do so in January. It's tentatively set for the 26th. And the dates for, and although the second meeting is normally scheduled for like a working group, because the mental and behavioral health presentation will be such a big topic, we are, and in order to get all the information in as quickly as possible, our suggestion is that we use the second meeting of January to do that. And that also gives us lots of time to give to all of the presenters to make sure that they have enough time to come. And then in February, we would have a presentation about homelessness, and then, like we said, the city council introductions. And then the second meeting would be where each of the 4 subgroups would report out to the rest of the group, and then we would use it as a working meeting. You know, around structural, like how you guys more looking at your scope, your mission, exactly how do you want to complete your recommendations, you know, just actually you guys doing more of the planning and reporting out and making sure that everyone's kind of getting information to everyone. So, and then again, wondering if you guys want to have the community roundtables on a Thursday or Saturday. And then March would be same style, where the first meeting would be informational, second meeting would be a working meeting, and then the community roundtables. And then in April, if we're ready to go to council, we can do a presentation on the 4th Tuesday, or if we want to just send a written report, we can send one throughout the month at any time. And then we would look at the RPD budget. And then starting in May, we wouldn't doing more presentations, because by that point there would be lots and lots of work and lots of information that's already been presented. And hopefully you all would be at a point where it's just more about completing the work and synthesizing your information the way you all want to engage with everything. And then in June, the same thing. So with that, I want to open it up to the group and first find out, I mean, it's a lot of information all at one time, but are there any like initial questions that kind of pop out?
Yeah, Joanne,
Mhm.
under the school resource officers, I mean, unless maybe Captain YA can confirm this, I thought that those were eliminated.
Right, but there was some question and some discussion from the last meeting that people still wanted to talk about it and understand it and figure out like what's going to happen with the elimination of those and how is it still affecting the community and the safety of youth. And so right now we have slated to have the director of community engagement from the school district to come and talk about that. We definitely invite suggestions for other people to talk about that, or if people feel like that's not necessarily something that they want to get more information on to the whole group, then we can do that too. Like I said, this is all just a base. We can take away and add as you guys see fit.
I don't mind. I don't mind leaving it as a topic, but I don't know how much the school district is going to weigh in other than why they eliminated them. I think it would also be, there'd also be some input from, obviously, I think from the police department as far as how they're going to respond to the calls at schools when they don't have dedicated school resource officers anymore. So I don't know if you want to lump it in with 2 or leave it as is. It doesn't really matter to me. But I think if someone from the school district is going to talk about why they were eliminated and what the process was for reaching that decision, I think that that's fine. But I think there also needs to be some discussion from the police department as far as how they're going to handle, police-related calls at a school facility when there's not an SRO there anymore.
Lupe, can you stop sharing your screen for a second? Okay, so I will then defer this to the group because like I said, we're just here to kind of help you know, guide this process and help you all manage the workload in kind of a like methodical way. And we've just dumped all the information that we've gotten from you guys, how you guys want to do this. If we can take it away, we can add it. I can ask, I know Martine, she's the director of community engagement. I can ask her to maybe just come and give a few, like a 5-minute update on why they got rid of, like what the process was, and invite her next week. I mean, excuse me, in February when we hear from the RPD for the updates and Q&A question and answer period. So it's up to you all.
Joanne, I have a follow-up question for Joey. Would it enrich the conversation if not only we had the school district to articulate obviously the reasons why they eliminated the SRO, but also speak to their plan to respond to the issues and concerns, because that hasn't gone away and it won't go away. And additionally, we'll invite PD to speak to what coordinated efforts or discussions they're having with the school district to still be able to respond to the issues.
Yeah, I agree with that.
I have had my hand up for quite a while. So
I've
I would
had my
kind of
hand
like
up
us
as
to
well.
decide whether or not we're going to follow a queue using some
Yes,
process,
please.
or are people just going to be able to jump into the conversation whenever they please? I don't think that's a good way of doing business. I put up my hand quite a while ago, and I think that we should have an agreed upon process for how comments go and what order we're going to take them in.
Okay, I didn't realize that I wasn't.
I'm not mad at you, Joanne. I'm
No,
just
I know,
wanting us to have a process.
I got you. I just didn't realize that I wasn't a co-host, so I can't see anybody's hand. Lupe, are you able to make me a co-host?
I think I had it like that, but let me change it right now.
No, I'm definitely.
Okay, you should be all.
Okay. How about this? Because I don't know who got there first, can I just go from left to right and then we'll fix it the next time? Is everybody okay with that? Okay, Linda, you're in my top left.
Oh, okay. No, I understand what we said last time, that we don't have control over the school board. I understand that. But we're going to make decisions about the police and budgeting and things like that. And I think we need to understand how it's going to affect the police, because they will be called to the schools eventually when we open up again. So we should understand how it's going to affect the police department, how much time have they spent in the past, being on call, because it will, I think, affect how we look at it when we have to make some kind of decisions down the line. So I agree that maybe bundling it with RPD's discussion might work, instead of having a separate meeting just for that. I think maybe when Joy was saying to bundle might be a good idea.
Okay, and then David.
Yeah, hi. I'll echo Joey and Linda. I think bundling is a good idea, but also want to kind of comment on the scheduling. So on the January 21st, that's with homelessness on that day. That is also that's a planning commission meeting, and that's the first planning commission meeting of the new year. So, I don't know what the agenda is going to look like, but just so you know that there may be some conflicts.
Thank you. Don?
Thank you. I've got several comments. Since we're talking a lot about the SROs, I routinely attend all the school board meetings start to finish. And I can tell you that the people spoke up loud and clear, and the elected officials that actually have control over allowing the police department on site as SROs have said, no, we will not allow that. But with a $48 million budget deficit, SROs was one of the tons of low-hanging fruit. Says we don't have the money to pay for it anymore. So we can talk about it all we want, and it's not going to make any difference with the school district on what they do as far as SROs, because they don't have the money for it. They won't have the money for it for 3 or 4 years at the minimum. And the attitude against the police right now with the people that are being listened to by the school board is that we do not want them there. Of course, the police will be coming when a crime is committed, and the school district calls the police. A crime can be committed without the school district calling the police. That happens all the time. But I mean, we can talk and talk and talk, but we can't control what the school board has to say about anything. One other issue that I wanted to discuss, it would be very helpful if you could send out this presentation material in advance so that we could read it in advance and come prepared to discuss it. Because when it's shown to us right now, it's only taking up a half of my laptop screen. I got to bring out a magnifying glass to try to read it and listen to the presentation at the same time. So sending it out in advance, kind of like the Brown Act requires, it would be very helpful. But also on the schedule, we have to keep in mind, we run into this problem all the time between the city council type stuff, the city stuff, and school district stuff. They think that they're the center of the universe. They're not looking at the schedules of the other major things that are going on. You got most of those meetings you've got scheduled are the exact same days as school board meetings. So I mean, we can't attend two meetings at the same time. It's very difficult. And as David says, you got one of them scheduled with the planning commission. We got to be able to look at the schedule for the major things going on in our community and try to find days that work for all of us on that. Because you don't want to be setting up a schedule that essentially pushes out some of us. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Don. And then Tamisha?
Good evening, everyone. Nice to see everybody. I hope everybody had a safe and healthy Thanksgiving. Good to see you, Joanna. Thank you for always being here, providing us with resources and managing these conversations. I do one thing. Thank you, Don, for clarifying why the police are no longer in the schools. I don't think we need a presentation on why RPD is no longer in the schools. We know why. I think I wouldn't like RPD to present on why they aren't in the school. That makes no sense to me. Or even how they plan to respond to calls at the school. Pretty much every officer is on call, period, unless they have a special assignment, in my opinion. I would like to see, though, there have been school safety conversations. There's a school safety staff, and they have been doing great work to figure out what all this means. And so if you really want to know what is going to take place, we should have someone from the school district actually come and present on that, if that is something that people are interested in. I think the district should do district business, the city should do city business. But if people want a presentation, then, and it's the majority, then I'm fine with that. I have a question around, around meetings, what do we constitute a quorum, right? Everybody is busy, everybody's schedule is tight. A lot of us are in a lot of different meetings. I feel like as long as we have a quorum, we move forward. And then the other thing that I just want to raise up again, because I raised it up when I first started in the task force, is are we going to be making some interim recommendations to the city council? I am not sure I want to sit here for the better part of a year and just see presentations and have conversations and then present to the city in June. I think there are things that this group could recommend even today. And so I'm hoping we can have some preliminary recommendations set up in that timeline as we move forward in this process.
Okay, I'm gonna take Deborah and then Shirley really quickly, and then I want to address a few of these things and then move on to a couple other questions before we kind of finalize this. So yeah, Deborah.
So I have a list of comments. The first thing is that I really feel that we need to develop a process for task force comments and questions. My proposal would be that if people have a comment or a question, that they either raise their hand visually using the video or raise their hand virtually using the app. but that people actually do that and be recognized in an order that can be recognized by everyone. I also think, to the extent as possible, just the same we do with public comments, that we should put a time limit on questions and comments, either 2 to 3 minutes, so that we don't have individuals dominating the conversation and we can get things done in a timely way. I also want to propose that we have an overall process for decision-making for the task force. I suggest that we should actually use Robert's Rules of Order as the way in which we run the meetings, and that we have an assigned parliamentarian. I personally would recommend Michelle Millam, but I'm open to any other suggestions as to who that person should be. I also want to suggest that we hold the community listening sessions on a Saturday, as I think it'll be easier for people in the community to participate on a Saturday than during the weekends. And I also want to note that when we had the conversation about the SROs, that we did have a person from the public who worked at one of the high schools who did not ask, who pointed out that that's not something that's within the purview of this particular task force. And so to me, it's important that the things that we do and the issues that we consider be things that fall within the purview of what this task force has been charged with. And while there are other issues that might be of interest to us, given the scope of work that we have to do and the limited amount of time that we have to do it, that we stay focused on that. And if we're going to make an exception, it should be done by motion and approved by the majority of the committee.
Okay, Shirley, and when you're done with that, then I want to have a few comments about some things, and then we can start taking a look at like the more details of this besides just the presentation part. Go ahead, Shirley.
Yeah, thanks, Joanne. I guess piggybacking off Tamisha's question, I guess it's just a general question, actually. The city budget review cycle starts in March, correct? Or is that when the next fiscal year's budget has to be approved? Yeah, just wanting to figure that timing out.
Okay. Is that your only question? Okay, I'm gonna add that to my list. Okay, so first let's back up so we can do this a little bit methodically and have a little bit of logistic administrative things kind of happen in order. So it sounds like, from what I'm hearing, that a presentation regarding the subject matter of school resource officers may not necessarily be beneficial for you all. And that if perhaps discussion of school safety could maybe fall under a more larger conversation within the subgroups. Does everyone, does that sound fairly, and we can take it off of the calendar?
Oh, sorry, I'm gonna raise my.
Okay, how about, let me put it this way. Who wants to take it off the calendar? Raise your hand, or do like this if you want to take it off the calendar.
They can do the reactions on their videos.
Yeah, I don't know. So pretty much everyone wants to take that off the calendar. Okay, got it. So we're gonna, using the wrong mouse. So we're gonna put a strike through on that. Okay. So as far as making interim recommendations to council, we've built in, I think, 4 different times throughout the schedule to either make formal presentations or written, and then you can make written reports to council just anytime we feel like the need that this group wants to do. But we've built in dates for interim presentations or reports where we are expecting some action. And the first one we have is tentatively set for January 26th. Tanisha, I hope that answers that question. And then, then the question came up around the community listening session, roundtables, focus groups, workshops. We'll come up with a name of having them on Saturdays. Would people, are people open to that? Like, who all votes for that? Maybe raise your hand. I don't know. Do this or the reaction. And let's count, because I need to count. We need at least, if it's not 11 people, then we won't. Okay, I don't see anybody's hands.
Can I make a suggestion on the community engagement sessions?
Please.
So just as I suggested early on, because of everyone's schedule and alternating meetings between Wednesdays and Thursdays, why don't we do the same for the community listening sessions? Not everybody is available on a Saturday and vice versa during the week. So maybe we can have one during the week and one on a Saturday.
Well, I only see one hand for a Saturday. And so it doesn't look like that, like anyone wants that anyway. So,
Okay, I'm good with that.
Okay, so in order to honestly, in order to kind of maintain some continuity and some so that it's easier to keep track of things, we're trying not to do alternatings of anything too much. So just for the sake of lots of things. So our suggestion then is to have the other alternative to a Saturday be the third Thursday of the month. So I am asking if that is okay with the group, if everyone can do some sort of raising hands.
I'm sorry, could you say that one more time? What are we voting on?
The community roundtable, the focus groups will be on the third Thursdays.
Yes.
Thursday or Thursday?
Thursday.
Yeah, not
Thursdays.
Oh,
Third Thursdays.
The third Thursdays are, well, it doesn't matter. I mean, I won't be there. That's planning commission. Oh, that's fine. That's fine. Just saying.
I can't do fourth.
So my concern is about community participation. If we're going to be doing it during a weeknight, is there some way that we can sort of maximize our ability to publicize that to the community so that people can try to make an effort to attend, either by sending out notices through the local schools or through the food distribution centers or some other way that we can actually maximize community participation? That's more important to me than whether it fits into our schedules.
I hear you. And that we will definitely be able to assist with that, but I would charge this group with making sure that the community is well informed about these sessions. We will, of course, assist in any way we can in that endeavor. Okay, and then the other thing about the budget cycle. It's my understanding that the budget begins getting reviewed and talked about in January, all the way up until it gets approved later on towards the end of the fiscal year. But Sal, can you comment on that specifically?
Yeah, typically in January, we're looking at the mid-year. This schedule really lines up with the city's development process for the budget of 21-22. And the starting date has varied over the years, but typically we will target May as the month that we intensify the discussions around the budget and start informing the council of what that budget will look like that will be coming before them. Typically, those discussions with the council will be intensified in June, and the expectation is that that budget is approved by the end of June. And also to Tamisha's point, I believe it was Tamisha, and Andres Soto brought this up early on also, is that we do want to entertain the opportunity to look at recommendations that don't have a budgetary impact, and we don't have to wait until May to elevate and have in-depth discussions about those recommendations. What I would suggest for this task force to consider is that we take the opportunity also to vet out those recommendations during those community engagement, those community listening sessions, to get additional input and feedback from our residents.
So there's one thing I'm going to table, and that's around like the order of like the parliamentarian and that discussion. I want to save that for either table it to the end of this or maybe at a later on the regular meeting. But are there any other, okay, maybe you can go back to the thing is, much of this information based on the timing of the meeting and all of the information we were still getting from other places, we wanted to just make sure that we gave you as much as possible. So that's why we're only showing you this tonight, and so that we could also do all work together with this. But Lupe, can you show the slide again, the first page? So if we are eliminating the discussion about the school resource officers, do the other presentation topics look okay? So having the ONS come, the CPRC, RPD to come and provide some updates on their programming, things they're already doing, question answer period to reply to some of the questions and comments that have been either sent to us through the questionnaire or that were presented in the last meeting, and then having a mental and behavioral health presentation, and then homelessness, and then finally the budget. And is everyone still interested in having the council come? Are there any other presentation topics that we want to discuss around either eliminating or enhancing? Okay, it looks like.
Joanne, are there any we can add?
Yeah, sure. I mean, it's up to the discussion of the group. So, Don, I think you had your hand raised first. You're mute. You're on mute.
Sorry, my hand was up about 10, 12 minutes ago. The subject matter that I wanted to talk about, we've had about 15 different items come up since then. Quite frankly, I'm sorry, it just feels like the public or the committee members here are being silenced because we're not being recognized in a timely fashion when we keep going on and on to different subject matters. So I'm not going to go back and try to discuss things we were discussing 10 minutes ago, but I'm not pleased with this. So you go ahead and next speaker.
Randy?
Yes, I just want to second what Deborah said a little while ago. I think we need to get some order involved. And I agree with all her recommendations. Secondly, I'm okay with all those things. I also would like to hear, and sorry, Ben, because we talked last night during the CPRC meeting, and I wanted to hear your updates on the program, what RPOA and their policy thing that you talked about, and I would like to see a presentation on that, if that can be added on here. That would be something that would be good to talk about. And then for another question to the side, that I wanted to ask, and this is separate and it's probably need to be figured out. If we do go into, when we go into subgroups, if we ask for data, in what timely manner would we get that data to look at? So that'd be a question I'd like to ask. But I would want to ask Ben for the conversation that he brought up during the CPRC meeting, if he can come and present that information and talk about that process as well.
Okay, Tamisha?
Yes, so a few things. One of the things, so when we talk about reimagining public safety, this idea is not just about policing, right? It's about how do we do public safety differently to address all of the issues. So I see mental health here, homelessness. I think ONS is like a model for the city of what is going on to address violence in the city is good. And I think the budget, what I don't see here is I don't see community resources. So like a deep analysis or assessment on what resources are already available in the city via CBOs, community-based organizations, what have you. Maybe that already happened and it happened so fast that I missed it. I also know when the Reimagining Public Safety Community Work Group did a presentation, they presented on a couple models that other cities or even states are using to respond to and address issues that law enforcement could relieve themselves of that would create a greater impact and reduce police, people having to lean on law enforcement rather than community resources. I don't see anything around economic development, which is also a factor for, public safety, jobs and things of that nature. I see housing, homelessness here, but I don't see housing, which can also, just like homelessness isn't just not homelessness, it's also affordability and access as well. And then the other thing is I don't see a presentation from the Office of, is it Children and the city has like an office of like children and family or something like that, Joanna?
I know what you're talking about.
I don't see a presentation from them. And I think that's important as well because they've been doing a lot of community engagement. And I was in a meeting maybe 2 weeks ago where I felt like it was very eye-opening and could help us to kind of see what they've done. And I don't know how many other folks here were in that meeting. And these are just some of the things that I see that, like, if we're talking about reimagining public safety overall, then this is what we're actually talking about. If not, I don't know what we're talking about. And so how do we take a vote to add things, take away things? How do we do that?
Okay, I'm gonna try to answer a bunch of these things at once. So like Shirley, can you, or no, I'm sorry, Deborah was first and then I think Shirley.
So I just wanted to ask whether or not, so we've agreed we're going to take off the presentation about SROs from the list of things that would be presented. I was hoping that we could have a presentation on work around gun violence, because that's a problem not just in Richmond, but throughout the Bay Area. And I think it would be useful to have a presentation from ONS about what they're doing, but also one that really discusses models that are being employed in other cities that may or may not work here to do that, and how the city of Richmond can work more collaboratively with other cities in the Bay Area that are facing similar problems to have a more holistic approach.
Okay, and then Shirley.
Yeah, this is more around the community roundtable. See, police policies and alternative methods, and then a separate one is RPD budget and training. And I'm wondering why those are parsed out separately. Yeah, that's just a logistic or like a content question around why those two are split. Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna try to go back and answer all of this stuff at one time. So it sounds like Randy wants to hear more about the, from the RPOA, and maybe perhaps we can ask them to come when the RPD comes and do their updates, and perhaps have them like kind of combine that time. Does that sound reasonable?
I can provide that presentation whenever. I mean, doesn't have to be tonight, but I can provide it on another time. It's pretty short.
Okay. Okay. So we can just kind of put together a schedule and talk offline about that. As far as getting data, it depends on what's being asked, and any request of information, we forward it to the proper department or representative from wherever the data would be coming from, and then it's up to that team. I mean, and it kind of like just depends. I don't have a steadfast answer for that. Like it's really objective. And then the community-based organizations and kind of getting in like a mapping of all of the community-based organizations and all of the services that are already being provided. I would definitely need all of you all to contribute to that conversation and then possibly invite them. That's why we want to, we're looking at formulating the community roundtables, inviting them there so that it's a really rich discussion with also our residents. And then that way it's also a way for people to learn about those organizations and those services that are being done. Because just, I mean, as you can see here, just from the sake of time, it's getting really difficult to try and provide as much information. And a lot of this work and a lot of this information gathering is part of the work that the subgroups could be managing, and then could also be bringing back to the larger group so that we're making the best use of our limited amount of time. And then as far as like having some economic development information presented to the group, again, I would hope that that's part of some of the information that will be handled within the subgroups. The issue is like with the focus areas and the subject and the priority areas, like it's just this big like umbrella of things, and we have to try to make it as general as possible in order for you all to create the details of those topics. And I think that with the reason why the budget and training was put together that way, it was based on some feedback and some information that was presented at some of the other meetings, and then also the way that trying to limit the number of subgroups and just trying to create like, okay, so where do we put this? Where, so we can rename the group, but it's just more even because training costs money. And so we just put it there. I don't want to say like, just based on trying to formulate everything and provide some structure to it and some guidance. It could definitely be redone. If you guys want to change the grouping, that's fine too. We can talk about that in the next discussion. And then as far as children, the Department of Children and Youth, I'm sure they're more than welcome. They will be more than happy to come. And I can definitely add that to the schedule, I can ask them from, we can swap that out for the time that we were going to talk about the SROs. And then as far as like other models, that's definitely some other information that we want to hear from you all, like letting us know what's going on. So like I said, this is kind of like a skeleton schedule. We're just trying to plug in some information, get this to what, provide as much information as we can, but then there's lots of information that we're asking for you all to also dig up and gather and bring it back to the group. Children and youth, does everyone want to just kind of swap that out? How does that sound? Or do you want them to just come to one of the community sessions? Is there any suggestion? Either or, bring them to replace the school resource officers that week? Yes, no?
I would like to see them replace the school resource officers. I know we got to take it to a vote, but like, if we're not talking about, it's children and families, this is great work. We should know what's going on and how we can incorporate it in some of our recommendations.
Got you.
So I'm
So is everyone in agreement that we just swap it out for that time slot? Yes?
I'm fine with that.
Yes. Okay, great. And then as far as a quorum is 11 people. I think I'm not sure if I answered that before already. So we are running out of time. The next thing we basically wanted to do was, so let me just kind of recap a little bit before we ask for comment on this particular area of discussion, is we will be having the community listening workshop roundtables on the third Thursdays. We will be having the Department of Children and Youth present instead of having an informational session about the school safety. And RPOA will be coming at some point to provide some updates on some work that they're doing. And I think that's are the only hard changes that we're making to this schedule. Did I miss anything? Okay, doesn't sound like it. So we're going to open it up for public comment on this particular discussion. So we'll have, oh, Kristen has her hand up. Oh, pardon me, excuse me.
No, we already voted. It was just a comment about Department of Children and Youth, but I'm happy they're coming. So
okay,
that's all.
So we're going to open it up for 2 minutes for public comment, and each speaker will have 1 minute if we have any.
1 minute left for raising your hand. Thirty seconds left. All right, the 2 minutes is up.
Okay, so because the group discussed and agreed that having sub-working groups is definitely necessary, and to complete all the work that's been tasked with this group, we had the discussion and everything has been kind of lumped into these 4 main giant categories. And there's tons and tons of details that can be put into each of these categories. And we've distilled it down to homelessness, mental health, police budget and training, and then police policies and practices, or alternative methods or methodology. Deborah, I see you have your hand raised.
Yes, I've been giving some thought from the agenda that you set about how we could frame the subgroups and their areas of focus. So I'm just going to offer a suggestion at the moment for 3 major subgroups. The first one to be called the health and safety subgroup, and that would incorporate issues around mental and behavioral health, homelessness, and drugs or substance abuse as their particular area of focus. The second would be accountability as safety, and that would focus on issues around staffing, training, basic police policies, and discipline. And then the third one, for lack of a better term, I'm calling Smart on Crime for safety. That would address issues around resource allocation, law enforcement priorities, the ways in which we were going to have the allocations reflect the basic values and priorities around the city in terms of what public safety should look like. And I'm not attached to any of these. I just wanted to maintain the general frame of safety in terms of what the task force charges, and to incorporate the specific work things that we've been doing.
Okay, it's up to the group if you guys want to change the subject or the overarching priority area or the terminology of these groups. Is there, so I'm gonna leave this up to you all. Tamisha?
I'm down with that. And again, I want to reiterate issues around models. I think models and alternatives to policing was raised in one of those subgroups. If not, I'm concerned that it wasn't.
Here, I'll type the ones that we have.
Community resources, and I still believe something around alternatives to policing, community resources, and economic dignity is really important. we can't think that we're just gonna like hold the police department accountable, transform the department, and then everything is gonna change. Some things need to happen differently in the community and are the responsibility of the community as well. So just going back, like, yeah, can you kind of
Okay, here.
write up what I think is it Deborah?
Mhm.
I'm sorry. Was like, can we see like what Deborah was saying? And then is there like a fourth subgroup? Because I think somebody also was saying that police policies and practices and the police budget and training shouldn't be separate, they should be together. And then when we're thinking about these alternative models and methodologies, community resources and like economic development should probably be a working group of its own. But I'm just trying to figure out how we don't miss the fact that people need resources to act differently in community.
Um,
Do you want me to put that stuff in the chat? I'm happy to do that if you want me to.
yes, please, Deborah.
No problem.
Marcus, can you go ahead, Marcus?
I was just wondering, how are we going to be assigned to these subgroups? Are we just going to volunteer? Are we going to?
Well, that's the next thing, because at this point, I mean, it's hard to say, but hopefully we will just have about an even number of people volunteer for each 4 area.
So it's much a volunteer type situation.
Mm-hmm. I don't
Not going to assign.
intend on assigning anyone to any different area.
I can just clarifying.
Mm-hmm. And hopefully, you know, they'll be as even as possible.
And is that going to be done with, you know, like now, or are you going to send out a
That was the plan, but it looks like we're already running out of time, and I hadn't imagined that, you know, I mean, because as a special meeting, and I know we have a lot of meetings, so I was trying to keep it to an hour. If
So you're just gonna name the categories and people just raise their hand for what they want to be in, or what?
Well, but it sounds like to me that there still wants to be further discussion around what these categories are, and then also it wouldn't be very conducive to try to divide people if we haven't agreed on the categories. So do we possibly want to table this to the regular meeting next week?
Yes.
My vote is yes, if we are voting, I'm sorry.
Okay, but I also want to mention that these categories and focus areas should be hopefully as broad as possible so that you can really draw. Because if they become too specific, then we're kind of making it to where certain things can't get talked about in that area. But we also tried to, this is all language coming from you all, from the past meetings and from the questionnaire. But this was also brought up on the questionnaire. Are these the groups that you want, and whether or not there's anything else that you want to see or that you would rename or something else? So I'm requesting that if we are going to continue the conversation, that we please have everyone kind of think about it a little bit and be ready to maybe either make some new suggestions, or we'll go back and reformulate them again from this meeting and send that out tomorrow. So that we will be ready to discuss this on next week. Yes, Don.
Perhaps we could.
Pardon?
Sorry. I didn't want to come out like that. Anyway, Perhaps we can put it out in an email to all of the task force members. Come up with this list, because I still have no definite idea what this list is. I'm seeing a lot of different suggestions and language. I see what's written here, and you got incomplete. I mean, item number 2, that looks like it's incomplete. Send something out and ask the task force members what they want, so that when you put something together that you're going to send out to us with that 72-hour notice, we have something that we can read in advance and come prepared with. Okay.
This was part of the questionnaire that we sent, and it was also part of the last meeting. And I put this up here because I was typing this as we were talking tonight. So yes, it is incomplete. I was trying to type as fast as I could and take.
Well, I understand it. It's changed 6 ways from Sunday from just when you started talking. Yeah.
So, Randy, and then Tamisha.
Yeah, I do agree that we can get some of the categories, especially get Deborah's ones that she's typing in the chat, to make sure that we add them. I do agree with Tamisha that we need to add something around community services or something like that in the subgroup. I don't know where that would fall in. I think it would fall in as something, one of Deborah's subgroups, and if I recall. But I do want to make sure that, you know, we have these on the board. If anybody want to add them, you know, talk about it now. Then when we get that time to pick the category, we get to see more and develop the category, see where it fits in. And I do agree these need to be as broad as possible, because you don't want to be specific and narrow-minded, because then it kind of does limit the decisions. But I do agree that get these, you know, subgroups aired out, get people's opinion on what should they feel like in the subgroup. I think you asked in that survey what subgroups would people be interested in, and then make sure that if those are the subgroups that you send it out, so people can have the idea what they want to join when they come back. And then my question is, since it's only 11 people, it's 10 people have to be in each subgroup, right? Because 11 makes a quorum. What makes a quorum?
Well, if we have 4 subgroups and there's 21 members, that's like 5 people per group.
But my question is
that, you mean if they have too many, it's 11.
Yeah, so our question is that can people join different subgroups, since the number is that we can't hit is 11?
That would be on a completely volunteer basis.
Okay.
I mean, that's however you guys, I'm just trying to provide some framework so that we can get down to business and, you know, get things going and be a guide for you all. But you guys all have to kind of manage the work how you want to manage it. So
no, I definitely agree. I was just asking to make sure that not like, if I wanted to volunteer for 2, that I wouldn't be. And I get the stiff arm. I don't want to get the stiff.
No.
Okay. That's it.
Okay, and then Tamisha.
Yeah, so just really quick, I'm in a lot of subgroups right now at the county level. And so I think being clear on the focus of the subgroup and then the steps we want to take to achieve our goal is very important. If you could send this particular document that I'm looking at right now, obviously like Don was saying, out to everybody, then we could either individually or collectively add some of our best thinking. I'm also willing to just like also offer resources and context to like what can make our subgroups operate a little bit more efficiently. The reason why I don't like going so broad is because I don't like sitting in conversations for a long time and never reaching a real solution to the problem. And so in some instances you have to be specific, but that could be in the tactics. So I'm willing to look at this. I know everybody else want to, and I'm also willing to offer tools and suggestions on how the subgroups could run more efficiently.
Thank you, Tamisha. Don. You're on mute.
Sorry, I try to be polite to mute myself. I want to touch on something that Randy brought up about potential Brown Act violation. As long as we notice the meetings, as long as we provide an agenda and we allow the public to weigh in on a public meeting, we don't have to worry about we have a quorum or not. I sure don't like the idea of breaking up into subgroups and then being told, oops, you're the odd man out. You can't participate in this because we've got too many people. Because that's not what I signed up for, just to be excluded from anything. So you just have to notice the meetings in advance, 72 hours in advance, come up with an agenda, and make sure that the public can weigh in.
And we'll cross that bridge if we come to it.
Totally. I'm sorry. You can't cross that bridge when you're in the middle of the meeting if you have
No,
not
I mean,
noticed it in advance.
I just mean if there's a group that ends up where it's going to be more than a quorum, then we'll cross that bridge around publicizing and all of that.
I'm sorry, I'm not quite sure you understand it. If you won't know that until that day of the meeting that you've got too many people, and by then it is too late to give a 72-hour notice. You give the 72-hour notice 72 hours in advance. You post an agenda 72 hours as the Brown Act requires. I said that way you're covered in case the rest of the task force wants to join in on that subcommittee meeting and weigh in. You're prepared for it.
Okay, I see what you're saying. Thank you. I was confused. Deborah, and then we're gonna close this discussion, and you all will get this list and we will talk about it at the next meeting. Deborah.
I'm just asking for some clarification about where we are and sort of what the role of subgroups are in relationship to the larger group. I saw them as working groups where people would take in information and sort of drill down on that information so that we could come back to the larger group with specific recommendations for moving forward on particular issues. And I didn't necessarily understand them to be the same type of public meetings as the task force meetings. So if that's the case, I think it would be good to have that explained clearly so that we know what we're voting for and joining up for when we sign up for the subgroups.
The intention, and based on what feedback you all gave, the purpose of the subgroups is to be working groups, to be folks that come together and determine and decide within that group how you want to manage and information, how you want to bring it back to the group, how you want to do research, how you want to present a working group, gathering, all of that. However, regardless of what type of group it is or what kind of, as long as if there's more than 11 members that intend to be at those meetings, then you would have to post the agenda.
Right, but my assumption is that our plan was to have small groups of 4 to 5 people so that we could actually get work done. So that's where I'm confused now. I didn't understand the subgroups to be mini committees of the whole. So
I don't think that will be the case. I think it will be 5 to 6 people.
And if other people want to come and listen, to me, that's different from participating, because if the group is going to be able to move forward and do work, it has to have a consistent participation of people who are aware of the conversations that have existed and can meet together to build on that without always having to focus on bringing new people up to speed. So there's a difference to me between other committee members, task force members coming to observe a working group meeting than actually participating in a working group that they did not join.
Typically, working groups or ad hoc groups are usually not a quorum, so that they do have the freedom to be able to meet and do work without the restraints or constraints of the Brown Act. However, I cannot restrict or, that's not my, that's up to this, up to the group, or up to individuals. But that's typically how that works. Tamisha?
I think Don had his hand up
I didn't.
before me. Am I right, Don? Or
I
okay.
don't see
So
his.
maybe you were just rubbing your brow because we 30 minutes behind time. But just want to put it out there that like I personally feel like some of us were selected by the community to make sure that this process was transparent. So there's no way that I would ever agree to have a meeting to discuss issues about the community without the community being able to participate or have input. I think that's the opposite of why we were selected, some of us, to be on this task force. I think some of us were selected for transparency and to make sure that the community voice is not stifled. And so if I'm in a subgroup, I want the agenda to be posted. I want the meeting to be publicly known to the community. I would like for there to be an opportunity for public comment and all of those things. Otherwise, we're participating in the same bureaucracy that the community didn't want in the first place. And
You're
so
welcome to have the public at your meetings. I'm
yeah,
just like, but
I'm just
if
not,
there's
I don't
not
want to
a
be an
quorum,
observer. Right.
pardon?
They don't have to, I don't feel like showing up to a meeting to just listen to people talking about what should go on in my community as an observer is right or righteous. And so I just wanted to put that out there. Now, however the group feels moving forward, we have to roll with that. I just don't feel comfortable.
If you do the working group meetings as like a working group or an ad hoc, community members are more than welcome to come and engage and participate with you. It's just where you're not being restricted by the Brown Act rules. And depending on how each working group is managing themselves, it will be very difficult and quite capacity stretching for staff to post an agenda for each and every single working group and each and every single working group meeting. But you're more than welcome to engage with the community as long as there's not a quorum of members that and that you're not making decisions. You're just information gathering, you're coming up with ideas, you're figuring things out, and then you come back and report it to the whole group where it is publicly noticed. And I mean, you can even say we had 50 public speaking people, or public comments, public engagement, public participants, residents, whomever. That's how we are imagining it. If you guys want to do something different, that's fine. It's just going to be highly difficult. And I don't know how much. Our thing is to try to step back out of it so that it feels more driven by you all as a committee, as opposed to having the staff being involved with the administrative aspects of everything. So we're going to table this till the next meeting. And I believe I'm pretty sure I did the action item recap from the agenda, but that kind of skipped over the member comments section. But I do realize that we are way over time. And if there are any comments, please make them now. Otherwise, we will adjourn the meeting. Don.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm going to retouch on some of the things from an hour ago. I agree with the request that we need to maintain order in these meetings, but that starts with the task force members respecting each other by not cutting in front of the speakers. When you've got 4 or 5 people with their hands raised up, you don't just start speaking over them like you're special. And we see that time and time again tonight. But that starts with the staff being able to keep their eyes on that list of task force members so that when the hands go up, that they get called on in a timely fashion so that they don't have to sit there with their hand up for 10, 12 minutes And so you move on to other subjects as I was talking about before. Also, there was mentioned we should be following Robert's Rules of Order. Well, unfortunately, that goes against what the City Council requires, that we use Rosenberg's Rules of Order. It's a completely different set of orders, and you may not really like Rosenberg's rules. That's why a lot of subgroups don't use it. But on the interim reports, we've got a diverse set of opinions that we have here at every single one of these meetings. And I would hate to see that we got a report that's being given to the City Council or the public saying, this is what the task force thinks, because you've got one person more than a majority of the quorum that agrees with it. We need to be like the Supreme Court, for instance. You can go ahead and give a report, but you've got to give the minority report as well, because the idea is to get the information out to the City Council and to the public. Because we're not really decision makers, they are. And they can't make this record of decisions without getting the information that we're going to be getting. And with these working groups, if you want to keep things small and who are you going to exclude from these meetings? Which of the task force members are you going to exclude if you want to keep them small? Because I'm one of these people that I would want to attend every single one of the meetings. I would want to participate in every single one of the meetings. Because when it comes back to a working group giving a report, I wanted to know what was said during the meeting, not somebody's opinion about what was said during the meeting. Because it may not always be the same thing. With that, I will shut up.
Thank you for your comments. Luis, and then we're gonna go ahead and adjourn.
I was going to bring up Deborah's point again about Robert's Rules of Order, but just based on Don's comment, now I'm wondering if we're bound by City Council rules as well. That's just something I'm not sure of. So are we bound by those rules? Do we have to follow Rosenberg's Rules of Order in that way? So maybe that's something we got to look into. But I would just want to, I know it got brought up a couple of times about following Robert's Rules of Order, because I do agree. I think we need some form of organization in the way our meetings run.
Okay, I will address that at the next meeting. And Nakari, I had already closed the comments before you had your hand raised.
No worries, it's all good.
I appreciate you. So with that, we're going to adjourn the meeting.
Everybody have a good night. Sorry I couldn't chime in and offer my voice.
You'll be here next time.
Most definitely. Thank you, Joanne, for all that you're doing tonight.
Thank you, sweetheart.
All right now.
Thank you, Joanne.
Thank you, Marcus.